Hey, are we good to start?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey everyone, this is Amir from Next Career, and this is How I Just Get Hired podcast. And today I have this opportunity to talk with Max. And yeah, just start with say hello to our uh, audience.
Oh, hi, listeners. Amir reached out to me this last week about my experience in the job market. I'm relatively young. I'm 25. I graduated in December of 2021 from college, so just over 2 years. So I think I'll definitely be able to share some valuable advice about how to get a job, um, and specifically within DevOps. That's what I do right now. I'm a DevOps engineer for a medical device company. So
Thank you so much, Max. So, what got you into DevOps in the first place?
yeah, so I actually started sort of as a level 2 desktop technician, right? So like a step above the help desk. Um, but I knew that I didn't necessarily want to stay there super long term. Um, so I was looking around at different sorts of roles, and I know I wanted to work in the cloud. My first employer primarily worked within AWS. Um, but I also know that I don't really like doing the same things all the time. I like to learn new things. And from my research, I discovered, DevOps is a good career to be in if you are looking to sort of tackle new problems and learn different tools and technologies. And luckily, was able to express my interest in that field to my employer, and they were, willing to sort of foster my growth into that role. So
Awesome. So, have there been any game changer moments or decision that shape your career path so far?
game changer moments. That's a great question. Um, I would say a lot of my career up until this point, and like I said, I'm relatively early in my career, has been totally due to the fact of serendipity, right? I've been lucky to be given the opportunities that I've been given, right? Like with my first employer, the fact that they were willing to sort of cross train me alongside my full-time role, and allow me to sort of dip my toe into DevOps, and work on things that were in production, and work with some developers. I think that was probably the biggest game changer, right? Is just being able to get valuable work experience outside of what I'd be able to do, in a lab setting or on my own. So
Awesome, awesome. So let's talk about the job search process. You get hired in about 2 months ago. Yeah, is it correct?
yeah, I just started a new position with my current employer as of January 2nd, 2024. So
Awesome. So this new year was promising.
yeah, exactly.
So, how did you go about finding the right DevOps opportunity? What was your strategy?
Sure, yeah. So with my previous employer, we had just started to sort of shift into the cloud, Azure in this instance, but it wasn't necessarily moving at the pace that I wanted it to. So, I was shopping around somewhat. Um, I, was content in my previous role, but, if there was something that I thought would be a better opportunity to learn, I wanted to pursue that. So I was just kind of shopping around, and I actually had a recruiter reach out to me on LinkedIn, um, for a senior level role originally, that was asking for 5+ years of experience, right? And I'm like, I don't have this. A lot of these criteria I don't necessarily meet, but I'm someone who learns quickly, and I think I could, perform the job. And I indicated that to them, and I think, the recruiter as well as the hiring manager, who's my current manager, sort of appreciated the transparency and my moxie, so to speak. Um, and then it sort of went from there. Just went through the whole hiring process, met a few times with the recruiter and my potential future employer, um, and then I ended up getting an offer and accepting the position.
Awesome, awesome. So, beside that, have you had this experience to apply for any other jobs on LinkedIn or any other job boards, or have you tried networking on LinkedIn, or this is the only opportunity that came into your way, and you accept the offer?
Sure. I feel like I've had a a decently constant stream of people reach out to me with offers on LinkedIn, or the opportunities on LinkedIn, primarily from recruiters. But I think in that instance, work experience is valuable, but then you also need to be willing to um, show things about yourself or your career outside of what you've done. Like, I mean, I guess I've been lucky in a way. I've had old professors reach out to me to speak at my alma mater, going on podcasts like this. I've written some blog posts around some tools and technologies, and I just feel like people can sort of see that, I'm someone who cares about the stuff that they're doing, and someone that they might want to bring onto their team or into their organization.
Yeah, exactly. When you create valuable content,
Definitely.
no matter where, it's just like a networking at a scale, and
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
really helpful. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And let's talk about the technical interview. I guess there was a technical interview, yes?
Yeah. Yep.
So was it tricky?
Yeah. So I feel like so what was interesting was there was sort of like a pre-screen like technical interview. I believe it was Tech Gorilla or something.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so there was that, which I think sort of falls in line with some of the other coding assessments or interviews that other companies would give throughout the process. But the actual technical interview, um, I mean, it was deep. It was a bit tricky, but I think if you're someone who's comfortable, you know what you're talking about, as well as being able to admit, I may not necessarily know how this works or the entirety of these details. I think recruiters and managers and companies pick up on when someone is sort of fibbing, and just trying to spew out an answer. Um, so having that humility and being able to admit, hey, I don't exactly know the answer to this question, but I think I'm someone who can figure it out. I think, recruiters and companies appreciate that too.
Exactly, exactly. In this world that most of the people try to be not just themselves, maybe the
Right,
answer is to be just yourself.
right, exactly. I think, people in general appreciate people who are genuine, right? So
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Uh, so what was the toughest interview question you faced, in HR round, in when you were talking with the hiring managers, what was the moment you were it was really challenging for you?
sure. I think it's not even a technical question. I think for me, sometimes the most difficult question is like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, it's I mean, something you can definitely practice, and most people do, but I think it's also important to give like a genuine answer. Um, so I would say that's probably typically the most difficult question for me, because obviously I want to continue to bring value, or be given the opportunity to bring value to a potential employer, but new opportunities arise all the time, and you don't necessarily want to convey that, oh, I'm going to jump ship if I'm offered more money or given an opportunity where I could learn more. So
Yeah, great, great. And what was your golden piece of advice, or I'm sorry, what's your golden piece of advice if you want to give it for someone looking for get into DevOps?
sure, I would say curiosity. Curiosity is a big portion of it, right? Like I said, there's a lot of different tools and mechanisms to get things done, to do things. But with that, I think it's sort of the attitude that it's going to be hard. You don't want to give up. If you give yourself enough time, you will eventually figure out the answer to the problem, right? I think where people run into trouble is they encounter a wall and they just decide to back off, but you kind of gotta bust through that wall. and keep going. So
Yeah, mentioning that, how do you keep up with all the new DevOps trends and technology?
that's a great question. YouTube is my best friend. It's almost like the YouTube rabbit hole is made for DevOps engineers, right? You can just click on a recommended video about a new tool. There's a lot of different, DevOps YouTube channels that I like to kind of stay up to date with. There's subreddits, articles. Um, if you feel like you're going to be working a lot within the cloud, um, you can get a cloud certification, and then a lot of the companies, like Azure, GCP, AWS, you can sort of leverage all of their internal tools as well. But then also going with like industry standards like Terraform or Jenkins or whatever is a good bet too. So
Yeah, YouTube is my best friend too.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, um, Azure or AWS, which one do you prefer?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, so I primarily work with Azure now, at my current role in my past employer. But my first employer was AWS. I have a couple certifications in AWS. Um, AWS is nice because it's a bit more granular. I guess it was the first one that I, sort of had exposure to, whereas Azure will tend to sort of lump um, what would be considered separate resources or services in AWS into one. Um, but the Azure UI I think is a little bit better than AWS's. And like I said, I probably, even though I learned AWS first, I probably have at this point a lot more comfortability and familiarity with Azure. So it's sort of a toss up, I'd say.
And let's talk about the future of DevOps. And where do you think DevOps is headed?
Yeah, I know. Going back to YouTube, a lot of people are saying that like DevOps is dead, and it's sort of transitioning into site reliability or whatever. But I feel like there's still not a good definition of what DevOps is, right? So I think you know companies are going to continue to evolve and sort of adopt DevOps, um, and then there will be a more sort of standard definition. From there it might evolve into, okay, there's no more DevOps engineers, everyone is a site reliability engineer because everyone thought a DevOps engineer was one thing, but in reality it's actually a site reliability engineer. um, But yeah, no, I don't know. I think DevOps is alive and well. It's going to keep growing. Companies are going to keep adopting it, especially as they transition to the cloud. So
So I know that we just met Max, and but I really impressed by your big heart and kindness
thank
and
you.
generosity, to give us this moment to speak with us. And I really hope it was a great advices for people that you are looking for DevOps roles, especially using YouTube.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything you want to share with people seeking jobs in DevOps, especially in DevOps or any other tech, for example, software development, I don't know, MLOps. MLOps is very similar to DevOps, I guess.
Sure.
And yeah, do you have anything you want to share with them?
Yeah, I would say, like I sort of alluded to earlier, um, curiosity is a big sticking point for any career field, right? You have to be willing to or wanting to grow and learn. If you don't want to learn, if you don't want to grow, don't do DevOps, right? It's all about growing and learning, and being challenged. Um, Perseverance, like I was talking about earlier, if you hit a wall, you got to be willing to break through that wall. Um, I think 2024 and 2023 is hard with regards to the job market. There's a lot of really qualified people, um, fighting for for positions. So you also maybe need to be willing to make yourself stand out, doing things like this, or, sharing your curiosities, start a YouTube channel, write a blog post, network with people, get in contact with people like Amir, or yourself, I think is super valuable too. So maybe be willing to go above and beyond, besides what everyone else is doing. I think is what's valuable and what will get you a job in 2024.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Max. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure to meet you, and thank you again. And I hope you do you have a YouTube channel so far?
I don't. No. Maybe I'll
Oh.
start one after this. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely be a good subscriber.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's good to know someone will listen to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Max. And bye, everyone. Thank you so much.